John McClane, NYPD.
On a good day, he's a great cop.
You don't like me because I'm white.
I don't like you because you're gonna get me killed. On a bad day, he's the best there is. On May 19th, McClane is back.
You got a AAA card?
Bruce Willis, Die Hard. This time with a vengeance. Rated R.
Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1995 action sequel, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard with a Vengeance is a fucking fantastic film. It's my second favorite film in the Die Hard series. And it's also one of my favorite action films of the 90s. The film is directed by John McTiernan, who returns to the director's chair with this sequel, and it's like he never left, because he still maintains the same familiarity with the structure of the series, and with the characters, and with the world, and he also brings with him some new tricks up his sleeve that he learned due to his time working on these other big summer blockbuster films. So this is McTiernan in his prime, just using all his tools of the trade to the fullest, and it is an absolute treat to watch. To watch this master technician at work, to see how he sets up his shots and his techniques for these action sequences, which this film is absolutely loaded with. It has everything that you want out of an action movie. You've got the shootouts, you've got the chases, you've got the explosions, you've got all kinds of stuff that's going to provide you with a ton of thrills. And then you have the more suspense elements. The moments of the film where things are a little bit slower and they're building tension. And he's very good at doing that. And that is still a technique, that is still a skill that he definitely still had when it comes to his directing in this film. And you could also tell that he just had a blast returning to this franchise. He had a lot of fun working with Bruce Willis again. And that just became infectious. You could see it throughout the entire film. You could just see that McTiernan was in his comfort zone. It was like he was back in his comfy chair. And it was something that was just very endearing and helped the film also be as successful as it ultimately was. The film also features an excellent script by Jonathan Hensleigh that is a retooled version of a script that he wrote called Simon Says. Now, Simon Says was initially going to be a Brandon Lee project, but Brandon Lee tragically died on the set of The Crow, so the studio had to essentially put the script on hold. Like, they still thought it had potential, but their initial plan to do the Brandon Lee film with the script the way that it was just not going to work out. So they decided to retool the script into a Die Hard film. And I think it was a brilliant idea, because the whole aspect of Simon Says is really a lot of fun, and it's very different for a Die Hard film to have John McClane have to use his wits in a way that you didn't really see him do that much of before, where yes, he had to think on his feet in the prior films, but here he's got to really think. He's got to think even harder. And the script also enabled John McClane to be incorporated into another genre of action, the buddy action genre. And I thought that was such an inspired choice. A big reason why I love this film so much is the dynamic, the electric chemistry between Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, between McClane and Zeus. The two are just a amazing pair, and I think their dynamic with one another their back and forth is right up there with some of the best buddy action duos. And then you have the other elements of the script that are taking certain ingredients from the first or the second film and really making this film feel like a genuinely sincere follow-up to Die Hard and to its sequel in some extent. Because you've got Simon Gruber, who is Hans Gruber's brother, who is the main villain here, who wants revenge on McClane for killing his brother, but at the same time, he also wants to pull off a massive heist and try to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. And he wants to play a game with McClane. He wants to fuck with him. So he wants to have fun with McClane and mess with his head, but then he also wants to have his cake and eat it too and steal all this gold. So I really like that aspect of the plot. I love this script's sense of humor. It's hilarious. It's very irreverent. And I also love the giant swinging balls that this script has. This is a script that would never get made today because there's all these lines of dialogue where you have the two characters going at each other and saying things like, "You don't like me because I'm white. I don't like you because you're going to get me killed." It's like, and that's one of those things that you would never see nowadays because people are like, that's racist. I mean, one of the first challenges that Simon gives to John McClane is to put on a sign that says, "I hate N-words," and stand in the middle of Harlem. Like, that, this kind of shit that would never fly today. And I appreciate the fact that they showcase that not only does John McClane maybe have some prejudices, but also Zeus. It seems like Zeus also has some prejudices himself, but they are able to put them aside and ultimately work together and become friends and allies. And I like that. I like the fact that there's a lot of rough edges with this script, and they're not completely smoothed out. I like the fact that John McClane is a shell of himself. He's off the force. He's been suspended. He's dealing with a massive hangover from hell throughout the majority of the movie. He and Holly have been separated. It creates a different kind of drama when it comes to this character that you haven't seen before. You haven't seen John McClane at this really low point in his life. So it's a refreshing take on this character. The only issue I really have with this script really comes down to the climax. I think the final confrontation with McClane and Simon is a little lackluster after the explosive finale on the boat. It just feels tacked on, and then there's a reason for that because it technically was. They had a different ending that was a lot less bombastic, and I don't think that really worked that well either. So it's just one of those things where the ending I think could have used a little work. It does lack the same heart of the first two because Holly's not really present that much. I think it was a missed opportunity to not have John actually get a hold of Holly at the end of the film on the phone and they have a moment where they reconcile. I don't buy that Bonnie Bedelia, she was so busy that she couldn't do it. I don't buy that Bonnie could not have done a voiceover role. I mean, it's not like she was a big, massive star at the time. So it seems like they just didn't even want to go there. It seems like they are insinuating that they're going to reconcile because he's going to get on the phone and he's going to call her. But then you never see the reconciliation, and I feel that's something that the film definitely could have benefited from. I also feel, even though Simon is a very strong, intimidating, and cold and calculating villain, who is also flawed, I love the idea that he stutters. That's a very different kind of thing. You normally don't see villains having vulnerabilities like that or nervous tics. So I thought that was a nice touch. Um, and so was McClane fucking with them, you know. Are you gonna kill me? And there's just so many things that I just love about this script when it comes to the dialogue. It's just so witty, so hilarious. Uh, Not even God knows what you're doing, McLean. Just there's a lot of just really great stuff. And I also like the game that Simon plays with McLean and Zeus, and I love the reactions of McLean and Zeus to these games, and I like the whole stuff with the Federal Reserve, where Simon is breaking in and taking all the gold. Uh, so there's a lot of things that I really, really like about this script. It maintains McLean's personality really well, and it puts him in another extraordinary, insane situation, but this time it feels like there's a different spin on it because of the whole buddy angle with him and Zeus. And I truly do feel that this is one of the best buddy action films that combines suspense and thriller elements into the mix. I really do. Just like I feel Die Hard is one of the best action thrillers. But all that being said, you got a strong villain, but his supporting cast is not really that strong. You got this big tall guy, you got this blonde chick who wants to get into Simon's pants and wants to fuck him, and that's really about it. You have these other guys like Nils and so on. But I mean, the most memorable thing about Nils is when uh, John McClane talks about what happened to him. Um, but all of that being said, at least you still have a strong central villain in Simon Gruber. So it kind of makes up for the lack of a supporting cast. The screenplay overall really solid, really good, and definitely is a major highlight when it comes to this film. And then you have the cast. I mean, Bruce Willis is once again just so charismatic, so likable, and just a lot of fun to watch playing John McClane. And now he has another dynamic to work with when it comes to the contentious relationship between McClane and Zeus, where they are, in a lot of ways, total opposites. They are like oil and water, but they have to figure shit out and work together in order to survive. And I just really love the chemistry between Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. And Sam Jackson, he was a enormous fan of the Die Hard films. So much so that he was super enthusiastic about doing this film. And you could tell. You can tell that he's having the time of his life doing this movie because this is a Die Hard film and he loves these films. And this is a character that also speaks to him and he can relate to. In fact, Samuel L. Jackson has said in interviews that this is the closest to himself that he's ever played when it comes to a film role. This is the closest to his actual personality. And this is ultimately one of his best performances as a result. But you've also got a great villain in Jeremy Irons, who's portraying Simon Gruber. And a really good supporting cast. I mean, Graham Greene as the Detective Joe Lambert, Colleen Camp as Detective Connie. Uh, I would say after that point, the supporting cast isn't nearly as strong. But really, the main focus, the main draw for this film is Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and Jeremy Irons. And all three of those actors are just amazing. They are admirable in their performances. Then you have some really nice looking cinematography by Peter Menzies Jr. The film really does have this very slick and very uh, sweltering look to it. I love the way that this film looks because it does have this very sweaty, sweltering look to the film that really matches the ferocity and the heat of this movie, because it's taking place during this incredibly hot day in New York, and everybody looks sweaty, and everybody's really not in the best mood. And so it really is something that shows up on the screen thanks to the contributions of McTiernan and his cinematographer. The editing also has that same powder keg mentality, that same bomb about to blow feel to it. And Michael Kamen, he returns to do the score, and he brings in pieces from his other works in the series, but then he also throws in some new stuff. And I really like the new stuff. I love his rendition of When Johnny Comes Marching Home. It's memorable, it's epic. I felt it fit the whole heist scene where the bad guys break into the Federal Reserve like a glove. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. So it was nice to see another classic bit of music retooled for this franchise, where you had Ode to Joy in the first Die Hard, and Diary with a Vengeance, you've got When Johnny Comes Marching Home. So overall, really great score by Michael Kamen. And the film's like 128 minutes, but it's super fast paced. I mean, this film is nonstop. It just feels like everything is just going to hell in a handbasket, and everyone's racing to one destination to the next, and there's no time, and it's just a really well-paced film despite its long running time. It never really feels like a movie that's boring or it's slowing down, because there's always something going on, there's always something exploding, there's always something happening behind the scenes, there's something that McClane and Zeus have to figure out. The other cops have to scramble to try to figure out where a bomb is, and it's just one of those things where everyone just has to think fast, or they're going to die. And it really is quite a thrill ride to watch as a result, because everything's just going in fast forward, but not in a way where it feels like things are being skipped or things are being missed. Uh, yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, this is a absolutely fantastic film. Like I said at the beginning of this review, it's a fucking fantastic movie on pretty much every level. And I just love the production and art design when it comes to the various different portions of the movie. It feels very realistic. Uh, and there's a lot of just really over the top scenes of spectacle, but they're shot and done so well. I mean, the sequence in the tunnel with the water, and the stuff with the boat at the end, and yes, the ending could have used a little work. I mean, McClane blows up the bad guy in another flying machine. I mean, in Die Hard 2, he blows up the bad guys in a plane, and this time around, he blows up the bad guy in a helicopter. So it feels like it's a little bit of a step down in that regard. It's like, oh, you know, this big epic explosion. He blew up an entire fucking cargo plane at the end of Die Hard 2. But here he just shoots a wire and causes the helicopter to explode. Eh. And the original ending wasn't, like I said, it wasn't much better. He plays some game of Russian roulette, I think, with a rocket launcher, and he wins and blows up Simon that way. That would have been a good ending for a different kind of film, but with Die Hard 3, it just didn't feel like it fit. But other than those missing puzzle pieces, for the most part, you got a near fucking masterpiece with Die Hard with a Vengeance. I mean, other than the ending and the fact that John never really reconciles with Holly on screen, I don't have anything that I can say that I thought was wrong with this sequel. It's a spectacular sequel. It gives you what you want out of a Die Hard film and then some. So that's my thoughts on Die Hard with a Vengeance. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.